there's a concept in housing affordability that if it costs more than a third of your income, it's like unaffordable, and that's kind of generally whether you're renting, whether you're buying in housing. If your income, if your housing price, whether it's your rent or your mortgage or whatever, is more than a third of your income, it's unaffordable. We don't have any similar kind of thing for college. It's just like, it's a lot. And that's, and it's growing. The debt levels are growing. The prices that people are paying out of pocket are growing. And we know that trend is a problem. But if we were trying to reverse it, or if we were trying to get to a good place, what would that similar kind of rule of thumb be for college? So that's what the benchmark concept tries to do. So it's going to take first acknowledging what the goal is. What are we trying to accomplish? Is it free college? Is it free community college? Or is it some kind of benchmark where under this numbers, people shouldn't pay anything, and above that, it's a very reasonable contribution, but something that people could actually achieve? And so the first thing is being clear about what the objective is, because then you can get buy-in, right? Then you can get buy-in from policymakers to increase funding. People, always need to increase funding, but you could get buy-in that we're doing it towards some end, right? We're doing it towards some end that is a reasonable social contract between people and government and institutions in terms of what their costs and prices are going to be. The affordability conundrum just has so many different intricate layers. Like, why is college cost so much is like a really difficult question. But people don't realize that students work. Students are working now, and they're working more than they did in the past. We actually did the calculations, and you would have to basically be working nonstop in order to pay tuition at an average college right now. So the vast majority of students are already working. They're probably working too much. They're working so much that they're not able to really spend time studying. So there's kind of this perception that today's students are on the quad, throwing the frisbee, hanging out all day, having the bill paid by mom and dad or student loans. And like for the majority of students, that's just not the case. Certainly there's always some people like that, but the vast majority of students are working 2 jobs, already have a kid, going back to community college, stopped out for a minute or started college, had a bad experience. Now they have some debt, but they never finished the credential. So their debt is not actually the 6-figure debt, but maybe they took out $5,000 and they were working at McDonald's, took out $5,000 to go to community college, didn't finish for one reason or another, and now are still working at McDonald's, but now they have $5,000 in debt that they have to repay. And so a lot of our work at Lumina is trying to figure out how do we develop solutions for them, because they're way more like the norm than that kid on the quad throwing a frisbee is. So when I hear the stories of people who say, oh, I used to do this when I was in college, I'm like, okay, that's fine, but students today are working really hard too. Yeah. I mean, the affordability challenges, as a nation, we need more people to get post-secondary credentials. And people identify financial barriers as one of the top barriers that they're facing when they think about why they're not finishing. So we've got to fix this. We've got to figure out how to make college more affordable for people. And it starts with being clearer about what we're looking to do. What are we aiming for? What's the goal of the policy? What would it actually mean? And we think it'd be really fair if we said some people can't afford to save anything for college. Some people can, though. And if you can't afford to save something for college, you probably should. And what we know about savings behaviors and financial decision making is that if we don't tell you what you should be doing, you probably won't do anything. And if we could break it down monthly and say, you know what, if you're making $75,000 as a family, can you save $60 a month for college? And so for the people that can do that, we should be encouraging them to. Now, that actually frees up resources for the people who can't, because there's so many people whose families can't afford to do that. There's so many people who are single parents trying to go back, who don't have anything extra to give to college. If they can save $5, they should save it in an emergency fund. If they can save $10, they should put it into retirement. And we shouldn't be asking them to save even more and put it into to put it into college. So we're very clear about that, and we think that these ideas that we're promoting kind of jive with how people live their lives and are going to school right now. And if I can just say, I mean, this is a national problem, but there are so many people who have identified the problem. They talk about how much student debt we have, how much students have in gaps that they can't between what their financial aid is and what the college tuition is and the room and board and in transportation. But we're really sometimes lacking in solutions. And so we have to start talking about, okay, how do we get from what we know the problems are, which are really real, to what we can do to fix that, which is bring resources to bear, which is to give them to people that need them the most, which is kind of give people who can't afford to pay something some guidelines about how they do that. So that's what we want to do.